In this lesson, we'll continue our coverage of bonds, looking at bonds that pay interest semi-annually and the bankruptcy process. The introduction to valuing bonds usually begins with annual payer bonds, but in fact, bonds pay interest semi-annually, so some adjustments must be made in the valuation process. With a semi-annual payer, N is the number of 6-month periods to maturity, so it's the years to maturity times 2. IY is the yield to maturity divided by 2. Remember that a yield to maturity is quoted as an APR, so we can simply divide by 2 to find the 6-month rate. Payment is the face value times the coupon rate divided by 2, the amount paid every 6 months. So here's an example. We have a 10-year, 10% semi-annual coupon bond with a yield to maturity of 13%. So N is equal to 10 years times 2, 20. IY is the yield to maturity divided by 2. 13% divided by 2 is 6.5%. Payment is the future value times the coupon rate divided by 2. 1,000 times 10% divided by 2, $50. Solving for present value, $834.72. In Part A, we focused on solving for yield to maturity, the rate earned if a bond is held to maturity. But what if the bond is callable? It may not remain outstanding until maturity. In that case, yield to call may be a more accurate estimate of the earned yield. We solve for yield to call in the same way as for yield to maturity with 2 changes. The future value is now the call price, which includes any call premium. N is now the number of periods to the first possible call. In our example, we have a 10-year, 10% semi-annual coupon bond selling for $1135.90. It can be called in 4 years for $1050. Yield to maturity is 8%. So solving for yield to call, N is 8, 4 years to the first call times 2. Present value is a negative $1135.90, the current bond price. Payment is $50. Future value times the coupon rate divided by 2, or 1,000 times 10% divided by 2. Future value is the call price, $1050. Compute IY, 3.568. The 3.568 yield to call is a 6-month rate. The nominal annual yield to call is 3.568 times 2, or 7.137. With a coupon rate of 10% versus a yield to call of 7.137, it may be in the firm's best interest to call in the 10% bond issue and issue new bonds at the lower market rate. Investors should anticipate a call and expect to earn 7.137%. In general, if a bond is selling at a premium, it means the bond's coupon rate is above going market rates, so a call is likely. Bonds selling at par or at a discount are unlikely to be called. This video tutorial covers bonds that pay interest both annually and semi-annually, and it's posted with this lesson. We've been looking at what would be termed plain vanilla bonds, bonds issued at par with a fixed coupon rate and no collateral. Other types of bonds include mortgage bonds with real estate as collateral, debentures, an old-fashioned name for unsecured debt, subordinated debentures, unsecured debt that is junior to senior debt and ranks lower in priority in case of bankruptcy, investment-grade bonds and junk bonds. Those are determined by their ratings. A major risk with corporate bonds is default risk, the risk that the issuer will not be able to meet the provisions of the bond contract in terms of interest payments and repayment of the face value. U.S. Treasury securities have no default risk, but corporate and municipal bonds are subject to default risk. If a firm defaults on their debt, bondholders will obviously not earn the expected return on their investment. Bond ratings are strictly designed to evaluate default risk. Bond rating agencies are hired by firms issuing bonds to rate them. The main agencies are Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch, Duff & Phelps. The higher the rating, the lower the coupon rate a firm has to offer. AAA-rated bonds are the highest rated. Originally, bond markets were only accessible by strong, highly rated firms. Corporate bonds started out at investment grade, but if they fell on hard times and were downgraded to junk status, they were termed fallen angels. Along came the 1980s, Michael Milken and Drexel Burnham Lambert, and the advent of original issue junk, high-risk, high-yield bonds. Junk bonds were used in many LBOs and acquisitions during this period. Eventually, Michael Milken went to jail, and Drexel Burnham Lambert went bankrupt. The junk bond market has cooled, but there are still high-yield bond issues. One result of this is that the corporate bond market became available to smaller, higher-risk firms if they're able to offer higher coupon rates. Bond rating agencies look at many of the same factors that stock analysts evaluate, but with a slightly different focus. Stock analysts focus on growth potential. Bond analysts are concerned with long-term stability and the firm's ability to meet its contractual obligations. Financial performance metrics would include the debt ratio. How much debt is the firm already using? Times interest earned. Are they earning enough to make the interest payments? And the current ratio. Do they have enough liquid assets to make coupon payments? Factors related to the specific bond issue include: is the debt secured or unsecured? Is it senior or subordinated? Are there any sinking fund provisions? The length of maturity. Anything that can affect the ability of the firm to make the required coupon payments and pay back the principal is a concern. Earning stability. The regulatory environment of the firm. Potential antitrust or product liability issues. Outstanding pension liabilities. Potential labor problems. Coupon payments and the repayment of the principal are contractual obligations of the issuing firm. If a firm does not make the scheduled coupon payments on its debt, the bondholders can force the firm into involuntary bankruptcy. There are two main chapters of bankruptcy: Chapter 11, Reorganization, and Chapter 7, Liquidation. Reorganization is more common for large corporations who can show they're worth more alive than dead. Filing for Chapter 11 stops creditors from foreclosing and taking assets. It allows the business to continue to operate with 120 days to file a reorganization plan with the court. Management usually stays in control with a court-appointed trustee overseeing operations. Prior to the Chapter 11 filing, firms usually arrange for DIP, debtor in possession financing, to fund operations while they work out a reorg plan. The reorganization plan must demonstrate that the firm is worth more alive than dead. Otherwise, the court will order a liquidation. This lists the priority of claims under a liquidation filing. Note that secured creditors come first. They are paid from the proceeds of selling the collateral securing the debt. If not paid in full, any remaining claim goes in with unsecured debt. Also note that unsecured creditors and stockholders, preferred and common, generally get nothing. Since unsecured creditors are unlikely to get anything under a liquidation plan, they're more likely to agree to a reorg plan. Secured creditors may prefer liquidation since the value of assets will start declining under Chapter 11. The creditors form a committee and vote on the proposed reorganization plan. If approved, the firm emerges from bankruptcy with lower debts. This ends our coverage of bonds. I strongly recommend that you view the posted tutorial covering calculated yield to maturity and yield to call.